How did they do it? Why did they do it? Riding and crashing and riding and winning and always faster and faster.
Welcome back everybody to With Antone Moto GP Friday chat. And thanks to everyone who's watched and engaged in the last couple of episodes. Look, I really appreciate it. And if you're new here, I want to say welcome, and it's great to have you on board for what is a fantastic season 2026 in MotoGP. Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this one over the last 2 days. MotoGP's decision to abandon Phillip Island. Now, I've been down to Phillip Island on 5 separate occasions. I've stood there in the wind, in the rain, freezing rain, I've got to say. I watched those bikes go down the Gardner Straight, crest the hill and hit turn 1 flat out. I've seen Casey Stoner power sliding through the Stoner curve, which is just something amazing. And I've been and seen the island when it feels like the center of the motorcycle world. Now, I was lucky enough to see Wayne Gardner winning there in 1989 and 1990, and of course Valentino Rossi, that famous last lap battle in 2004 with Sete Gibernau. And I don't think it's ever going to happen, but it's Casey Stoner's dominance, 6 straight wins. That place isn't just a venue for me, it is the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. It is the essence of what Grand Prix racing is into Australia. And look, coincidentally, I've been to the Adelaide street circuit twice with my father. In '85, I wanted to go and see Ayrton Senna, and he crashed out while leading. And then in '86, I saw Nigel Mansell blow the tyre, happen right in front of us. And of course, he lost his championship. But completely different vibe, the city atmosphere, the tight, narrow streets, and a real different kind of energy. And now we're shifting the Australian Grand Prix away from Phillip Island, yes, across to Adelaide, and maybe it might even be a night race. Now, the question for me isn't just island versus city. The question, and the bigger question that's really coming to me, is what is MotoGP actually becoming? Because that's really what we want to talk about here casually on Friday Night Chat MotoGP. Because whether you like it or not, MotoGP under the new ownership is changing, it's evolving, it's not going to be what it was. It's moving from a traditional motorsport championship into something maybe much bigger, a fan-first global entertainment brand. Now, Dorna's changed its name, MotoGP Sports Entertainment Group, MSEG, as we're going to call it from going forward. Now, night races, city venues, primetime broadcast slots, a younger audience trying to be attracted, and bigger commercial footprint. That's the goal of what they're trying to do. That's not my opinion here at With Antone MotoGP. That's the strategy that they're actually working towards. And that's why this Australian GP debate really matters, probably more than just the change of the circuits. This isn't a nostalgia thing. I've experienced both, and that's why this decision feels bigger than just venue logistics or the location of where the race is actually going to be run. Now, there's a big shift happening, and we know that, and we've talked about Liberty's vision. Now, really, it's all about broadcast first. The scheduling is around broadcasting. They want urban spectacles. They want night race potential. They are looking to amplify social media. You've seen that now on Instagram with the riders being interviewed from KL. They want to attract a younger demographic, and they're targeting social media and hospitality-driven revenue. They want celebrities, they want stars. Now look, it happened in Formula One. F1 went to the city, F1 went to entertainment, and F1 consequently exploded commercially. Now, in 1995, Adelaide, when it had the Grand Prix, had an attendance of over 520,000 spectators. Last year at the Island, 100,000 rounded up over the 3 days. Now, look, Phillip Island, it's pure racing down there. The rider's heritage, high speed, commitment to corners, having to manage the wind, the tyre stresses, and being able to manage what's going on. It exposed the rider's skill, and it provided a natural amphitheatre for viewing from the side. Now, of course, Aussie legends are a big part of that, Wayne Gardner and Casey Stoner, as we've talked about. Phillip Island tests the riders, but it also was a big test for the fans. Now, let's look at it. It's hard to get to, the island, and it's expensive to stay when you get down there, and the weather is diabolical. The track sits right on the Tasman Sea, and temperatures and weather can change in a moment. 10 degrees change, track temperature changes. And yes, Jack Miller said it at the launch. I too, and myself and my friends, we stopped going to the island because of the cost, the facilities, the toilets and the food. And we made our pilgrimage across to Kuala Lumpur in Sepang. So that is a real thing that I think that they're addressing. Now, the Adelaide race, what's the advantages there? Now, the South Australian government, which is, bid for this, and they're putting obviously substantial funding in, they haven't even ruled out it being a night race, so that might happen. They're looking to make it prime time European broadcast. Dorna and Liberty, they want a better TV slot in Asia. They want a visual spectacle. They want the sponsor activation. They want it to become more corporate. They want city accessibility, close to airports, close to hotels, and they want younger people to be able to attend more easily. If you're a 10-year-old Aussie kid and you're in Adelaide and you see the race live, you know what? Suddenly it becomes reachable. And for me, that is really hard to argue against. So are they trading the cow for magic beans? Do you think that's happening? Are we selling the heritage for a spectacle, or are we reinvesting in what MotoGP is? Now, for me, the metaphor, of course, it's not the beans, but it's an evolution, or is it a dilution of a product that the Australian Moto Grand Prix used to stand by? Now, look, I like to think about this in terms of exactly what is actually going to happen to the race and in terms of how we are going to look at this. So I started thinking about, well, what's the angle going to be in the media? And really, for me, it was one of those things that I stopped and I looked through. And we've seen a lot of references in the media right now about this. We're seeing the motorsport industry discuss how old the fans are. And there's not enough fans. They're talking about the people on the sidelines with the grey hair. This is exactly what Liberty don't want. They want young fans. Now, look, technical riders and people in the media, they want a circuit with character. They want to see the riders tested. And look, we have seen it at Phillip Island. It removes the real factor of the bike and it makes it all about the rider. When you're down at Phillip Island, you've got to make sure that you're, ready to go. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the street circuit. Temporary services are a problem. Tyre safety. You can't be running off across, white lines. What about the runoff areas? You're doing 300 kilometres an hour. And do you think the quality of racing will suffer? I mean, will it be another Hungarian Balaton Park go-kart kind of style situation? Look, are we building a spectacle at the expense of the DNA of racing? Look, let's make it quite clear. I'm not anti-Adelaide in any way. I think it's great. A street race in a capital city, it would be visually incredible. If you add in that it could be at night, it's going to be amazing. Look, you can't really argue against the case against this. You're going to have more eyeballs on the sport. It could be prime time European broadcast, big city atmosphere, easy access for families, and it's really making it accessible to airports, hotels and transport. I mean, the Adelaide Parklands, it's right in the centre of Sydney. young Aussie riders will be able to attend and they'll be able to aspire to that. And of course, sponsors and government support really going to create stability in the calendar. If this puts more people in front of MotoGP, if it inspires the next generation of Australian riders, and if it helps grow the sport globally, then it's a positive. But look, here at MotoGP with Anto-MotoGP, one thing that's not negotiable is safety. There's a line in the sand, and that's a big one for me and I think for us and as fans. If MotoGP goes to a street circuit, it has to be safe. Full stop, there's no compromises. The bikes, we know the speed that they do. The safety concern about tyres running across temporary surfaces. Limited runoffs, we're not interested in that being on a street circuit. Barrier technology, what are we going to use? Air fences? Look, it shouldn't even be a discussion. Runoff areas need to be big enough. And there can't be a compromise on the spectacle. We don't want to turn it into something that's just a TV event. We want to make sure the riders are safe, and if it can be in a city backdrop, then that's fantastic. So entertainment can't come at the expense of safety. I'm sorry, but that's not negotiable. But listen, what do you think of the change? What do you think of moving to a street circuit? Will it work? Do you think it's actually going to make it happen? And do you think we've seen the last of Phillip Island on the MotoGP calendar? So why not drop it down in the comments below and let's have a chat. You know, yes, it's a pity to lose one of the great circuits in the world, Phillip Island, a track that is a part of Australia's MotoGP identity. But sports involving MotoGP at Phillip Island, they didn't invest in that circuit. Calendars have to evolve and directions will have to change. Look, we're going to miss Phillip Island, no doubt about that. But if Adelaide is done properly and it's safe, if it generally grows the sport and inspires young Australians, then maybe it isn't selling the island for a bag of beans. Maybe it's reinvesting in the future. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this Friday chat, look, give us a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Why not subscribe, or why not share this video with someone who's into MotoGP or getting into MotoGP? Anyway, that's tonight's Friday chat. I hope you've enjoyed it and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Okay, bye for now.